So the first article is government's war on poverty. It basically says how Chinese government deal with poverty. They buy the land and house from the poor people, move them to new communities built in cities, small cities, and then they torn down all of these old housing, and then so they get a bunch of empty space for future city planning and other reasons. And so that's why what I'm trying to say is that you don't see a lot of like slums and like actual slums in China. Like they tried to eliminate these things, so you usually see a lot of like new communities, and then with like access to water and electricity, and then there'll be like security guards and government there. There won't be like clubs and drug dealers and stuff. But still, this article argues that this method creates more poverty since you are sending people who have only agricultural skills into cities. So it's really hard for them to earn a living there because they don't have the skills to earn money in a big city. So that's past Article 1. Article 3 is a very interesting Chinese article that you can translate to Google Translation. It basically says that everyone born at a place has that place local account. So if you're born in Beijing, you have Beijing account, and then if you're born somewhere else, you have somewhere else account. And then that account for Beijing citizens grants them access to cheap education, medical care, and then housing. If you don't have this account, you don't have cheap things. And trust me, prices in Beijing are like extraordinarily high. Like for housing, 1 square meter takes like $10,000, which is insane. Okay, but for new arrivals, it's very hard for them to get a local account, the Beijing account, because Beijing is kind of reaching its maximum capacity, and then the government is really limiting on the number of local accounts. So if you're new arrivals, you come here, you don't have the local accounts, and then you have to fight your way to buy houses that are very expensive, go to like schools. You don't have access to like free education. You have to pay a lot to gain the education there, and then you have to pay a lot for your medical care, right? And that is not very not friendly, because if you look into the annual income page, it says that Beijing citizen has an annual income around like $15,000. But as I have mentioned, if you want to buy 1 square meter of house, it takes like $10,000. So basically, you earn a whole year's money and you can only buy 1 square meter. So without an account, it's really hard to live. But then the government is not giving you these accounts, and it just made things very difficult for all these new arrivals. And that's why they don't really have a technical slum, because there's also like water, electricity, and security. But then they have really shanty towns near cities like Beijing, like mega cities like Beijing, because the new arrivals have to go there for cheaper but low quality housing and access to everything.